Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into what I think is absolutely the ultimate modern contradiction. Think about it. We are living in literally the most information-rich era in human history. I mean, we've got the sum total of human knowledge resting right in our pockets, yet somehow we're actually getting worse at thinking.
Right, it's wild. It's a massive paradox because despite having this infinite well of data literally at our fingertips, our collective ability to actually process that information, to really think critically about it, is in a steep, measurable decline. So what is going on here? Why are we getting worse at thinking when we have more things to think about than ever before?
Honestly, that's the million-dollar question right there. And the data completely backs this up. Our critical thinking scores are measurably dropping. But, this isn't just about bad study habits or our attention spans getting shorter. It's actually rooted in this deep underlying philosophical battle over how we fundamentally view human potential and human output.
Exactly. We are essentially living out a massive clash of worldviews right now. On one side, you've got this relentless drive for maximum efficiency, and on the other, that ancient call for deep, deliberate reflection. And how our society balances these two opposing forces, well, that dictates exactly what kind of minds we end up producing.
So, let's get into Section 1, factory output versus mind craftsmanship.
These are two fundamentally different models of human output.
Okay, to really wrap our heads around why our critical thinking is tanking, we have to talk about Frederick Winslow Taylor. He's the pioneer of scientific management, often called Taylorism. And let me play devil's advocate for a second here, because the appeal of Taylorism is actually huge. The whole goal is super simple: maximize productivity through the scientific control and absolute optimization of work.
Right, exactly. Taylor looked at human labor, and all he saw was inefficiency. In his factory model, human nature is basically just an economic engine. To get the absolute most output, you strip away all the friction, you standardize literally everything, and you treat humans, well, kind of like cogs in a machine. You make the system so perfect that the worker never even has to pause and figure things out.
And there's this quote from Taylor that really just exposes the dark side of all that optimization. He said, "Transfer all possible brain work from workers to managers."
Wow, that is just a staggering thing to say out loud.
It really is, isn't it? He didn't just accidentally suppress critical thinking. No, he explicitly designed his system to centralize cognition all the way at the top. The managers do the thinking, the workers just do the executing. To Taylor, an employee actually having an original thought on the assembly line, that was literally viewed as a malfunction. Thought was just friction.
But then, standing in total opposition to that, we have Socrates. Socratic inquiry isn't about factory output at all. It's about this slow, deliberate craftsmanship of the mind. For Socrates, the ultimate goal wasn't the efficient life. No, it was the examined life.
Spot on. He definitely didn't see humans as economic engines or just interchangeable cogs. He treated us as moral, rational actors, and for him, our highest possible purpose was to question our own beliefs and seek the truth, no matter how long it took or, honestly, how much it completely disrupted the status quo.
Which brings us to Section 2, unpacking our hidden assumptions. We're going to apply the Paul-Elder framework here to see what's really under the hood. So using the Paul-Elder framework, let's basically x-ray these two philosophies. What do they fundamentally assume about human nature? Well, Socrates assumes we are inherently capable of reason and moral reflection. He firmly believes we're truth-seeking and morally accountable. But he also knows we are incredibly prone to self-deception, which is exactly why we constantly need to question ourselves. Now contrast that with Taylor. He assumes humans are basically just instrumental, efficiency-driven economic actors. In Taylorism, people aren't naturally inclined toward reflective thought while they're working. Instead, they require this really rigid external structure to perform optimally. Basically, Socrates wants internal reflection, and Taylor, he just wants external management.
Which naturally brings us to the actual role of thinking itself. For Socrates, thinking is absolutely the highest human activity, period. The ultimate goal is ethical self-knowledge and virtue. Thinking is basically the whole point of being alive. But for Taylor, thinking is a bottleneck. It's a literal flaw in the system for most roles. Think about it. If a worker stops on the assembly line to deeply reflect on the ethical implications of the widget they're building, production stops. The ultimate goal for Taylor is maximal efficiency and output. So deep thought is literally a threat to system-led productivity.
Let's actually trace Taylor's implication chain step by step using that Paul-Elder framework. Step 1, you must optimize humans structurally. Step 2, to do that you have to simplify and standardize all tasks. Step 3, because thinking slows down production, you centralize cognition in management.
And then step 4, this is the chilling final result. You produce compliant, specialized performers. The real implication of Taylor's philosophy is this highly hierarchical society where education just shifts towards standardizing workers into interchangeable parts. Adaptability is totally handled by the system, not by the individual human.
Now, let's trace the opposing Socratic logic. Step 1. Humans are rational, sure, but highly prone to error. Step 2. Therefore, education has got to train us to question everything. Step 3. Because the condition of the soul matters most, we absolutely must prioritize ethical inquiry over sheer productivity.
Which leads directly to step 4. A society must protect social dissent and critique. The big implication here is that a truly just society has to cultivate critical thinkers. Even if it causes massive inefficiency and disruption, you essentially just have to tolerate the chaos of questioning.
All right, Section 3, Algorithms as Taylorist Machines.
This is the digital evolution of the assembly line.
So you might be wondering, why does a debate between some ancient Greek philosopher and an industrial-era factory engineer even matter today? Well, it's because the factory floor has officially gone digital. I want to pose a question to you, the viewer. What actually happens when the factory manager is an algorithm?
It's a genuinely chilling question. Just picture Frederick Taylor standing on a factory floor with a stopwatch, right? He's timing workers, removing friction, optimizing every single physical movement. Now, take him out and replace Frederick Taylor with a modern social media recommendation engine, like the ones powering TikTok or Instagram.
Our algorithmic feeds are perfectly optimized Taylorist systems, built entirely to capture you. What do these feeds actually do? They optimize engagement by breaking your entire digital experience into these repeatable microtasks. Scroll, react, share. Scroll, react, share.
Exactly. And most importantly, they totally remove the need for individual reflection. The algorithm is doing the brain work for you. It decides what you should see next, so you literally never have to pause and make a conscious choice. Just like Taylor transferred brain work from the worker to the manager, the algorithm is outsourcing your thinking to a server somewhere. It's maximizing output, which today is your attention, by actively degrading your critical faculties.
Moving on to Section 4, the hospital thought experiment. Let's test these philosophies under some extreme pressure. To make this really concrete, I want you to imagine you are a hospital administrator staffing an emergency room. You've got two choices. On the left, the Socratic staff. They constantly question protocols, they heavily debate diagnoses, they're definitely slower, but they are highly adaptable. On the right, you've got the Taylor-optimized staff. Incredibly fast, strictly protocol-driven, highly efficient, but very rigid.
Right. Now, if it's just a routine Tuesday and everything is completely normal, you probably want that Taylorist staff. They're going to process patients quickly. But ask yourself, which staff do you desperately want when a completely unknown virus hits? Or a patient comes in with totally contradictory symptoms and the standard protocols fail disastrously? You want the Socratic staff. You want the thinkers.
And this highlights the core tension perfectly, doesn't it? Adaptability versus stability. Taylorism completely excels in perfectly stable, repeatable environments. It is an absolute masterclass in efficiency, as long as the rules don't change.
Exactly. But Socratic inquiry, real critical thinking, that excels under uncertainty. When the protocols fail, when the environment shifts radically. I mean, efficiency is absolutely useless if you're just efficiently doing the wrong thing. You need a mind that can hit pause, question the underlying assumptions, and actually adapt.
Which brings us to Section 5. Inefficiency as future resilience. Time to flip our modern obsession with speed completely on its head. Let's synthesize this and look at the really big picture here. We have to concede a pretty harsh reality. A purely Taylorist society is inherently fragile. Why? Well, because it produces individuals who can beautifully execute a plan, but who totally lack the capacity to reevaluate that plan.
Exactly. If you have an overly optimized system, and that could be a factory, an education system, or a whole society relying on algorithms, it completely lacks internal critical capacity. When technological, political, or ecological conditions start shifting rapidly, that society shatters, simply because no one was ever trained to stop and ask, wait, should we actually be doing this differently?
This gives us our ultimate comparison, short-term optimization, which is the Taylor model, versus long-term resilience, which is the Socratic model. Socratic inquiry really acts as our long-term insurance policy against that system fragility. Sure, sitting around debating concepts or questioning protocols, it might look incredibly inefficient locally. It definitely slows things down today. But globally, over the long timeline of a society, it is absolutely the most efficient thing you can do, because it literally prevents catastrophic failure tomorrow. Which brings us to this incredibly powerful quote, and really the crux of this entire explainer. Critical thinking is overhead rather than waste.
That is such a massive conceptual flip. Education, debate, critical thinking, it is not a waste of time just because it doesn't immediately produce a widget or, spike a daily engagement metric. It is overhead. It's the required cost of doing business as a resilient, adaptable human being. It's the only thing that ensures we can survive when the rules of the game inevitably change.
So we want to wrap up with this final provocative thought to leave you with. The real question here isn't just which philosophy is better. The question is, what kind of mind does your society need right now? And what kind is it actually producing? Are we building resilient Socratic minds that are capable of navigating immense uncertainty? Or are we just outsourcing our cognition to these digital Taylorist machines, basically optimizing ourselves right into fragility? Take a really hard look at your own digital habits this week and maybe ask yourself, who is actually doing the thinking for you? Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.